Hey there, esoteric bibliophiles. Sam here. Today's collection of recommended books and brief book reviews is on the topic of cunning men and wise women, the traditional magic users of many cultures. Most of what I've got here deals with European and North American practitioners. Um, Hopefully, I can dig around and find some stuff more broadly than that. Traditional magic users are found in every culture. There are traditional magic users in our culture. We call them astrologers or light workers or uh, Reiki practitioners. Um, they are people whose magical skills are used to assist ordinary people in dealing with the problems of their lives. Um, there's an unfortunate shift in the meaning of some words that I'll have to address now. Um, the term witch and witchcraft. Witch in anthropology and throughout history up until Gerald Gardner and his friends started the Wiccan movement in about 1950, has meant a evil person who uses magic to harm others. And one of the jobs of the traditional magic users, the cunning women and wise men, was to fight against witches, to protect people against malevolent magic. So those of us who call ourselves witches today, in line with Gardner and his Wiccan movement, um, are actually probably using the term incorrectly, but it's too well established now for us to worry about it. So when I'm talking about cunning people, cunning folk, um, they are what would now be called witches, and what they are doing is substantially is what we would now call witchcraft. Just to clear up that little shift in the terminology. At any rate, let me begin. The first book I'm going to wave at you, Charms, Charmers, and Charming, International Research on Verbal Magic, edited by Jonathan Roper, one of the Palgrave books, 2009. Palgrave books, as I've unfortunately had to say, are a little expensive, but usually exceptionally good scholarly work. This book is really interesting to me because it draws from Northern and Eastern European research on cunning people and traditional magic. In quite a bit. There's a couple of chapters on England, but in general, it's Slavic, Finnish, Northern European, and also Balkan charms and charmers. Very interesting collection. It has both charms and deep analysis of how they're set up and how they work, and but also discussion of issues like Laura Stark's chapter on the Tietä, the traditional magic users in Finland, and how they have a strong, a strong magical persona that is part of their power. Think rather more Granny Weatherwax than something cuddly. The bristly, strong temperament is part of the channeling of protective and defensive magical power. I'll just tell you a couple of the other chapters. There's a couple on snake bite charms. There's a couple on love spells. There's something on generally on how the charms are structured so that they'll work. Particularly this one on Slavic charms. Yeah, just a real treat for those of us who are more scholarly than perhaps we should be, but some very useful ideas in here for those who practice traditional magic in some form or another. This one, Cunning Folk. Life in the Era of Practical Magic by Tabitha Stanmore. Published by Bloomsbury in 2024. It's a very good book on how traditional magic users and traditional magic functioned in England in the 1600s and 1700s. In different things. How to find thieves and lost goods. How to find love. How to win at trial. How to get revenge. How to save lives. How to get rich quick. Telling the future. All of these with entertaining stories of individuals, both clients of and cunning folk, and how they did what they did, and how society accommodated positive magic users and their activities. Really interesting little book. I liked it quite a bit. And a Canadian collection, Helen Creighton's famous study, Bluenose Magick. From this one's the Ryerson Press, 1968. Helen Creighton was a Nova Scotia folklorist who collected a large number of songs and stories, aphorisms, all sorts of stuff from Nova Scotia, principally in the vicinity of Halifax, although she did venture out into more rural areas from the 1920s to 30s, and and this is a substantial collection of folklore from that area. So here you go. Yes, just to get academic again for a minute. The discussion, which I alluded to at the very beginning, about the distinction between witchcraft and the cunning folk, the malevolent magic users versus the benevolent and protective magic users, is developed quite substantially in Carlo Ginzburg's book, The Night Battles, Witchcraft and Agrarian Cults in the 16th and 17th centuries, based on substantial amount of documents in northern Italy. Originally published in '66 in Italian, translated and published by Rutledge and Kegan Paul in 1983. This edition from Johns Hopkins University Press. Ginzburg is one hell of a good anthropologist, and this is a very good history. He digs into the documents, many of them court transcripts from witchcraft persecutions, on a secret society called the Bendanti, which means the benevolent ones, in northern Italy, a peasant cult that did battle in trance against witches in order to protect the fertility of the land and guarantee the harvest. They were they gradually, under the pressure of the Inquisition, gradually there came to be a shift towards the Northern European standard accusations of around the witch cult. You know, this notion of covens going out and worshiping the devil and all that kind of stuff, which was not part of the original Bendanti. In his later book, Deciphering the Witch's Sabbath, which was this translation 1991 by Random House. I think it was originally from 1989 in Italian. He expands substantially on his understanding of the shamanic roots of these groups, the witchcraft groups and the Bendanti, and argues that the accusations against witches were based on the same prototype as accusations against lepers, Jews, and Muslims, and happened originally in substantially the same areas in southern France and northern Italy. It really interesting book. It's a bit, the language in both of these, particularly Ecstasies, is a little chewy. He's definitely an academic. The material's really well presented, though, and very, very substantial. And his argument that there are shamanic survivals into European culture that informed popular magic and magic users is very, very good. He doesn't follow Margaret Murray and argue that the witch cult was, in fact, the great ancient tradition and all that kind of stuff. But he says there was definitely something going on there, which was very interesting to read. Sticking with Europe, Eastern Europe, Magia. Hungarian Myth, Magic, and Folklore by Margit Toth, 2024, by Llewellyn Publications. Good, interesting book on myth, magic, and folklore in Hungary, with some discussion of how traditional magic users used this material. And lots of interesting details, ritual symbolism, very charming illustrations, which I really quite liked too. Good book, worth a read. This Ancestral Slavic Magick by Natasha Helvin is Destiny Books 2024. It's one of one of the better books in my library, really. I'm very impressed with her discussion of ancestor work in Slavic countries. She does Russian. She has a Russian folk magic background, as well as being initiated into voodoo, Haitian voodoo, and she does talk about the two, but separately in this book. For ancestor work, which was a large part of the magical practices and folk religious practices in Slavic countries, and also in contemporary paganism. Yes, very, very good book. Not as much stuff directly on folk magic practitioners, though, or cunning people. This one, from a different perspective, Hoodoo Saints and Root Warriors, Stories and Magic for Liberation by Mawiyah, I can't pronounce her name, I'm sorry, Kai El-Jamah Bomani. Published by Llewellyn in 2025. This is one heck of a good book. Very definitely coming out of a tradition of strong resistance to the powers that be, particularly around issues of racism, but also the general resistance to being shat upon. You know, there's several things I really like about it. One is that she talks about the hoodoo process of making a saint, that is, recognizing a prominent individual as being, in some ways, almost like a loa in Haitian voodoo. A person that you can appeal to for assistance in your magic working. Rituals are very good. A lot of stuff on what recipe of supplies that you need. She has very good indexes of supplies, psalms, other material. I was really pleased to read this. Really impressed by it. In particular, she also starts by saying that the immigration and customs enforcement raids are what reminded her that it was time to really get this book written. And she has a strong focus on community resistance and community empowerment. Very, very much in tune with the traditions of the cunning folk. Okay, a West Country Wicca, a journal of the old religion by Rhiannon Rial, published by Phoenix Publishing in 1989. A cozy, pleasant little grimoire, a book about being a cunning person in the context of Wicca. She argues that she's dealing with a pre-Gerald Gardner Wiccan practice and style. Whether that is true or not, I don't know. She is dead, so there's no way to ask her. Good stuff. Interesting read. Yeah. And this one, again, this is Deadly Words, Witchcraft in the Bocage by Jean Favret-Saada, Cambridge University Press. Okay, let me see. The original was published in 1977, this translation in 1980. In the early 1970s, a young anthropologist went to a rural area in Normandy to learn about the witchcraft beliefs of people there. And it's a fascinating book. She discovered that there were really, if you wanted to learn or talk about witchcraft, you had to become involved in it. You had to either be a witch, which was the traditional malevolent, evil-doing person who cursed their neighbors, or an unwitcher, a person whose job it was to magically fight and defeat witches. Accidentally, after after several months of nobody really wanting to tell her anything, she accidentally ended up being seen as an unwitcher. And so people would share their stories with her in the expectation that she would do magical work to help protect them. Um, a lot of really interesting details on how people viewed witches and unwitching. Um, Details of the practice of unwitching and witching. Um, personal stories from individuals who had been bewitched. Um, Really, just a tremendously interesting book. Um, a couple of things in it really struck me. One of course, was that they that the role of the unwitcher was very definitely. Um, First, you couldn't really trust the unwitchers either because they had a lot of magical power, and you may be in danger, but you also had to trust them. Second, witchcraft wasn't seen as a single bad event, like your cow dries up. That's not necessarily witchcraft. But if you get a string of bad things happening, and you can't explain them, they always went to the doctor and the local priest and other knowledgeable people before they went to the unwitcher. Then, if there's a whole string of things all at once, it's probably witchcraft, and then you need an unwitcher. And yeah, I have to say it's firsthand right involved in the community of believers. It's really quite an interesting book. Again, sort of chewy. The translation's not bad at all, but there's quite a lot of material in here. So that's my little pile on cunning folk. Oh, yes, one last little one. I'll put this one in just because it's such a charming little book. Magick from the Hilltops and Hollers by Leah Middleton. Folk Witchery, Superstitions and Healing Practices from Appalachia, 2025 by Wiser Books. It's almost like a love letter to Appalachia. This woman really loves her native land and her native style of practice. But there's a lot of useful information in here. In particular, she acknowledges strongly that Appalachian magic draws from a range of influences, including runaway and freed slaves, the indigenous practices of indigenous people, as well as several strains of European magic. And she gives a number of magical of stories and spells and a little reference guide. So if you want to follow up on some of this stuff, there are other books to read. A, a charming writing style. I liked her. I liked the book. And that's it for this pile. Yeah, as usual, of course, I love to have people comment. If there's something you want to find out more about, just drop me a note. And I'll see you again soon.